Hey there, let's talk about the 3D printer. Um, you're you're already at the computers that are set up for the printer, so you've already logged in, and there's a login information for GrabCAD print. And I'll go ahead and explain the reason we're doing a generic login is that the GrabCAD print software installs on a per user basis instead of one install for the computer, and then every user uses that same version of the software. So it's a per user install. That means everybody who logged in would have to install it and create a separate account, and it just would make printing more complicated. So we're using a generic login. That's why you use the generic Chatt-Tech network login. It only works on those computers in the lab, so don't worry about that. You'll launch GrabCAD right here. Now, I am not on campus, so I'm not connected to the printer, but we'll still be able to work through most of the things. All right, when it launches, there will be a login for you to log into GrabCAD unless the password got saved. Okay, so you may need to do the login for it. Not a problem. It may tell you that there's an update, and if it tells you to install the update, then go ahead and install the update. Okay, like I've got a notification right here. It's mostly just newsletters. Okay, messages. All right, so here's our our area that we're going to be working in to make the printer, or to print the part. Sorry. Um, Down here in this corner right here is where our printer is listed. It should say this right here, the F270 DO1327. That is our printer. If it's not listed, you probably need to get me or one of the lab tutors to come over and take a look at it for you. Okay, because we may have to type in uh, the IP address for the printer. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Okay, but it should say that. Now, this, it may be a little difficult to see in the video, but we've got a white cube here. That's the build area, and then this is the build tray that we'll place our models on. Okay, and we place our model on this tray, which is just like the tray in the printer, and then we'll do some modifications to them. Now, I want to show you. Let's go to Inventor here. I've got 3 parts open, and I'm going to kind of load 3 parts in there to show you how to deal with some of the things. This one's a very simple part. It will not require any support material, okay, because everything in this one is vertical, okay, or horizontal. There's no overhangs, there's no holes through the part. The motor housing here, this will require a lot of support material to hold up the parts that are elevated, that are not resting on something else. And I'll show you how this is going to work through. And the other part I have loaded here is a round wheel. Okay, so let's go. Here's a photo of what I mean by support material. This white right here is support material, and it holds the model up while it's being built. Okay, and then we have a processing tank right next to the printer there that, if we've got support material, when we take it off the printer, we drop it in the tank and it dissolves this white support material. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about when I say support material. Okay, so back to GrabCAD. There's 2 different ways to add models. You can either drag and drop a native Inventor file, a native SolidWorks, or an AutoCAD 3D file. You can drag and drop them in, or you can go through the whole menu structure where you navigate to where something is. Okay, and so it inserts it. Now to drag and drop, you just open, your window file explorer. And let me resize that down and bring it in. Okay. And see, it just kind of drops them in there and it runs a model check. Okay. You may get an error message right here if there's an error in your model, which usually means there's like an open face or something, it's kind of hinky about it. So if so, you would run this right here and you would go repair all models and it would check your models and kind of fix them for you if it can be fixed. Okay. All right. Now this little thing right here, I can't remember the name of it. I call it the Swiffer Tube because as the printer is laying down the material, it's building it in layers, and as each layer comes up, it runs a layer of material here, either model or support material, and then the print head goes across a cleaner. It's a little cardboard edge and a wire brush, and it cleans the print head off. And so it'll do that at each layer as this thing goes up. Okay. All right, so we want to start with orienting our parts. And so I'm just going to click this Swiffer Tube and drag it over here out of the way. We want to orient them in the best way that we think to build it. So we can click our model and we can come over here to, where's it at? Orient part right there. And I find the best way to do it is to go orient face to plane. And then I can click on the bottom of that and tell it it's the bottom. Okay. Now, if I wanted to rotate that thing, say 90 degrees, I can look down here. Okay, so my Z-axis is up. Okay, so that rotated at 90 degrees about the Z-axis. Okay, so that's how you can kind of turn them on your thing. I like the orient face to plane. It's the easiest way to get it, up and down. Okay, and so we'll do the same thing back here on this part. And you just watch the little surface planes there. And so that gets me oriented. Okay, and you can rotate them as you need to get them lined up, and because we're going to be putting multiple parts on a tray when we print. If we can do that, we want to do multiple parts. Okay. All right. So if I want to reposition the things manually, a lot of times the easiest way is to come up here and go to my top view. And then I can see, where things are, lining up. Okay. And it just makes it easier to get things within the build platform. And then I can go back to my ISO mode. I can go back to my ISO mode, and kind of look around. And toggle. I don't know. Oh, yeah. I found that thing kind of awkward to use, the 3D manipulator. All right. So what have I got next? Okay, scale. I can scale parts in here, and maybe I don't want a full-size model. So I can select it. I can come over here, and where's it at? Right here, scale. So I can scale things down. Let's say we don't want a full-size part, but we just want, something that would look at it, and I can scale it down. So I scale that one down 50%. Well, when we do that, it saves a lot of material, yes. Maybe that's too small. Let's take it back to 75%. Okay, so I like that, so I'm going to keep that. So we've got it scaled. Okay, arranging the tray. Now, well, another thing, you can, if you want to have multiple, if you want to print multiple models of the same thing, you can copy and paste so that you've got multiple, you need to run several parts, like some of the projects that we've done for the electrical and computer engineering people. We made several Arduino boards, holders for them. And we'd get the model worked out and get everything worked out. And then we'd go to print and we'd build a tray with, 6 or 8 of these boards on here, and it would print them all at the same time. So I want to come back up here and kind of look at it. All right, so they're not overlapping each other. But the best way to arrange the tray is to let the software do it. And so I'm going to go Arrange, Optimize, and you can read the little, you can read the little thing there. And we go Arrange this tray. And it'll calculate, because the distance between your parts and the Swiffer cleaner tube, all that determines how long it will take to print. The more the print head is moving, the longer it's going to take to print. Okay, and so that that gave us a pretty good representation there. So I'm going to leave it like that for right now. Now let's look at some of our settings. Now, and we're just dealing with regular native Inventor part files. Excuse me. Let's look at our tray settings. Now, the printers, I'm not hooked up to it right now, so that's popping up. If you're in the lab and everything's golden, then that will not show up. But it tells you what material is loaded in the printer currently. And we have a choice between, right now in the lab, we're running ABS or ASA. Okay. And you just have to see what material is loaded. Okay. And if we need something else, or a different color or a different type of material, you just let me know and we'll get it fixed. Okay. So slice height, that's the thickness of our layers. Just most of the time, I just go with the 0.01, depending upon what the part is. We could go with thinner layers, just all kind of depends on what we're dealing with. But most of the time, just a 0.01 is kind of generic and it works. Constant, we're dealing with support type. So a lot of these things here will not change for you. The one thing you do want to make sure, these are normal and full height and system mode is normal. You want to make sure first layer material is support. Okay, because like we had in the photo, if you look right down here, it puts a layer of support material on the bottom. That is easy to pop off of the tray. If you do model material directly to the tray, it is really hard to get off. You have to take a scraper and like a razor knife and pop the things off. So we want to go support for first layer material. All right, so let's look at model settings. And I'm going to choose this model here. The default, based on what kind of part it is, okay, is sparse high density, which is going to be normal, unless you got like a really big part, and then you could go with a lower density, okay, for the fill. Okay, if it's a really thin part, then you're going to go with a solid, which this one here would be a solid. You can always check, thick and thin walls. Okay. So let's switch over to this part. And it, by default, went to the high density. If we switch that over to solid fill, because this is a thin part, I think it would give us a stronger part. Okay. And if there's an issue with it, it would give you a warning right there. Okay. Now, faces, if I choose a face, it can give me a couple of options, and I'll have to show you on a different orientation what I'm talking about. But most of the time on face, there's not a whole lot of changes to be made for it. Okay, so let's close that out. Now, support settings. Okay, now granted, this one's not going to require any support. This one would. But most of the time, the defaults are fine. We just stick with the smart style for support. Do not use model material for support. Ever, never, ever. Okay. And most of these defaults are fine for what we're working on. Okay. And the other things here, stabilizers and anchors, don't really apply to anything that we're doing until you would get into some really complex parts and developments and stuff. Okay, so we've got our models in here. We got our settings made. Now let's we want to do a slice preview, and this is going to run. It's excuse me, calculating the layers and the build patterns and all those kinds of things, and then it gives you a graph. It gives you an animation of it, what it looks like. What we're seeing is the orange color is support material, the green is model material. Okay. And when it talks about seam visualization, inside a cylinder, as the print head is moving, it has a starting and a stopping point when it's especially working a round part or a cylinder, and that shows you where those are. Okay, and there's a way that we can modify that. So if you want to see, oh cool, I learned something new. I didn't know that you could tilt an orbit in here. Cool. Hold down your right mouse button and you can orbit. That's, I'm astonished. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so we can look at this and we can drag our layers up and down so that we can see. And it just gives a preview of what's going on at that particular layer. Okay. And it may be easier to see if we go to like a front view. And then you can kind of see how that stuff is coming through. Okay. If you really want, you can play the animation and it's showing one layer at a time. Okay. Now, a couple of things in here. A Z pause, what that means is that at whatever layer you're at in your build, you can tell the machine to pause. And what you can do with that is you could change out colors and go with a different color from a particular level on up. Now, all your parts would have to be the same type of part because you can only change colors. We only have a one color printer, right? It only prints one color at a time. So we could put in a Z pause and then make the top part of this a different color than the base. Okay. I can show you, we got some examples in the lab of some stuff that we've done that I can show you that. Or we can do a pause for inserting metal inserts. Okay, that's possible also. We haven't done any of those in the lab. But you want to do a slice preview before you print, because what that will do is right down here, it gives you your estimates for how much material you're going to need and how long the print time will take. Okay. Because we want to kind of get an idea how much material we're going to end up using. in case we have to reload, in case we don't have enough material in the printer. So we might have to change that out. Okay. All right. And so if you're, if you're all golden, you're ready to go, you can save this project. You can go File, you can save project, and it will save everything. And then you go Print. I'll go ahead and save it. Yeah. Downloads motor housing. Okay. But since I am disconnected, it won't connect to the printer and do print. But you'll do print. It'll run through the print settings, and yeah, it's not going to find it because there's no printer hooked up right now. It'll go through the print settings, and then it will show up here with the printer name and in your file name and how long the time would take. And then once that is queued, somebody has to go over to the actual printer and press the start on the printer so it will actually start printing. Okay. All right. So I want to show you. I'll pause it. I'll do another video for the STL file and the print settings because this one's getting a little long. So I'll pause this one and come back.